Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode with Stacey Foat, lovely naturopath and nutritionist who has made it her mission to empower and educate women towards wellness. Stacey has had her share of hormonal problems, as at age 27, she was diagnosed as having commenced menopause with no explanation as to why. Under the mainstream medical model, she was told that she was just one of the unlucky ones, and the only advice she was given was to try and start conceiving as soon as possible, and that was the only hope of having a family naturally. She has come a long way from that point in her life, and she's now showing other women how to achieve hormonal balance. She also recently authored the book Balanced Babes, Every Woman's Guide to Hormone Harmony, which you can find on our website linked in the show notes and also on Amazon. So sit back, relax, and let's have a listen. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Hormonal imbalance and endometriosis go hand in hand. That's everyone knows that, it's estrogen dominance. Endometriosis implants actually have their own blood supply, create their own blood supply sometimes, and we need to know and understand how or why this happens so that we can make better decisions for ourselves. So
I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Can you tell us a bit more about you, what you do, and what brought you to this point right now?
Yeah, fabulous. So, I did a double degree, nutrition, naturopathy, straight out of high school. So I was always drawn to holistic therapies. And through the years, I had my own sort of hormone hell. I was never officially diagnosed with endometriosis, but I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. I was diagnosed as having commenced menopause at age 27 and told I'd never conceive naturally. So I had, I was getting hot flushes. I had rapid weight gain. I put on 8 kilos in a 2-month period. Extreme fatigue, the hot flushes, the blood sugar highs and lows, so all this stuff. So, and my hormones were completely out of whack. So through that process, and because of my knowledge as a naturopath in holistic therapies, I was basically able to reverse all of that completely. I have gone on and I had a mother conceived naturally. And I was able to reverse everything, the weight gain, the hormonal highs and lows emotions, the cystic acne, all of that stuff. And so I learned a lot about how the body actually works. And I learned a lot about the hormones in particular. So the one thing that I'm really passionate about sharing with people is that our hormones are simply messengers, and we're shooting the messages. My stupid hormones are out of balance and my body's letting me down and it's not fair. And what your body is, those messages, those hormones are just letting you know of something that's going on underneath the surface at a cellular level. So before we sort of go, oh, I'm getting this hormonal migraine again on my, why? Not just, let's condemn the hormones and let's try and put the hormones back together. Let's look at why the hormones went out of balance in the first place.
How exactly does it work with endometriosis and the imbalance of hormones? What exactly does it mean? We know that endometriosis and imbalance of hormones they kind of go hand in hand. So what exactly are those hormones that affect us, and how does it have an impact on endometriosis?
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing with endometriosis is that it is so multifaceted. And I like to explain it to people as endometriosis as a 100-piece jigsaw puzzle, because there's 100 different elements going on within that endometriosis, which is why it's so difficult to find a cure and treat, because there's so many moving parts that all need to be put back together in order for you to get that wellness happening. So one of those big elements is as the hormonal imbalance. So that is the estrogen dominance, where we have too much of this estrogen, but in particular exogenous estrogen. So estrogens that we're picking up from our environment. So from meats that have been treated with hormones, synthetic hormones from, the pills, the Mirena, the rods, the implants, plastics in our environment. Our water supply is actually now very saturated in estrogen because of the amount of women on hormonal therapies and stuff like that they're basically eliminating out and it's ending up in our water supply. So there's all those elements as well. But the other thing that goes on with the hormonal imbalance is women with endometriosis have a massive issue with progesterone and metabolism as well. So yes, they have really, really high estrogen, but they also have this progesterone that their body doesn't really know how to deal with, which is what causes things like the sore breasts, the mood swings, that endometriosis bloat. So progesterone is a smooth muscle relaxant. So when it's building up really high in your system, it relaxes all the smooth muscle, which is our digestive system, is all a muscle. So we lose the ability to digest our food. We eat things and it literally just sits there, and our bellies extend, and we get the bloating and the pain and all that sort of stuff as well. So that hormonal involvement is definitely there, but with endometriosis as well, there's chronic inflammation. There's an underlying infection, I find, with most women, and it can be just as simple as a candida overgrowth, or it can be general gut dysbiosis, so bad bacterial overgrowth through that digestive system. So of course that in itself creates, because beneficial bacteria plays a huge role in metabolizing and recycling our hormones. So our hormones are changing every day throughout the month, but it's our body's job to keep them back in order. When our body loses the ability to do that because we've got too much bad bacteria and not enough good bacteria to metabolize and keep them in order, as well as our liver being sluggish and overwhelmed, that's when the hormones go all out of whack as well. We know with endometriosis as well, there's all fragile, and we're reacting more to foods. So we have intolerances to things like gluten, dairy, soy, lots of different things. Essentially, we're more fragile to things like alcohol as well and stuff like that because they're inflammatory by nature. We also have an emotional trauma element to endometriosis. So quite often women who experience endometriosis have suppressed emotional things that basically stores through down in our uterus. So that can be simple things like feeling shame and embarrassment around their period in itself. Right. It can be more significant traumatic things like sexual abuse, or just having unpleasant experiences sexually as a teenager. But there's a spectrum of degree of, I guess, seriousness of these. But when we look at the pelvic cavity, think of it like a huge big bowl. And when we have emotions, heavy emotions, guilt, shame, anger, fear, and they're horrible, and they're heavy emotions, so they sink below and they settle in our womb, in that pelvic cavity. And those negative emotions create inflammation. They create disease at a cellular level, which creates that fragility in that womb space. So trapped, unhealed emotions and traumas definitely lead to endometriosis as well.
So does this mean that when you have like negative emotions, they actually are chemical, like physical chemical, I don't know, reactions in the body?
Yes.
So they translate
Absolutely.
to that, and then it settles in your, is that what that means?
Absolutely, because that's a simple stress response. So when you're experiencing a negative emotion, you're in a state of fear or anger or shame or guilt, you are stressed. And when we're stressed, we produce more stress chemicals like your cortisols and your adrenalines, and they're inflammatory by nature. They affect our blood flow, they suppress our immune system, they make our gut leaky, they make our neurotransmitters more on wire and stuff like that, which is why we have those, shortness, your classic PMS, that irritability, that just feeling really teary, all those spectrums. So that our emotions definitely have a physical effect on the body, and there's science to prove that now. It's not widely spoken about, but it is definitely a widely accepted phenomenon.
Wow. That's really interesting, because whenever I think of emotions, I think of it as some not physical things, and knowing that it actually translates to physical chemical products in the body, that's interesting, and that's good to know. Absolutely. Because then you know that you have to work on that as well. So you mentioned something about infections in
and this is so it can be as simple as what we call dysbiosis, which is that bad bacterial overgrowth. Now, it can also be more common infections, like, having past exposure to things like chlamydia or fungal infections or bacterial vaginosis. And these are harmful, not even STDs, like just bacterial overgrowth stuff within the womb. But it can be even more systemic than that. It can be, like I said, bad gut infections. Like you could have been past exposed to food poisoning and stuff like that. And that hangs around in the body. And what it does is, when there's an infection in the body that's a resistant infection and it's a low-grade chronic infection, you don't feel sick necessarily. You don't have the high temps and the fevers and stuff like that. But your immune system recognizes that there's a bug in there that shouldn't be there. So your immune system's working overtime. And the adrenal glands are like, hold on, we're under attack here. So your adrenal glands go into that stress mode. You go into that fight and flight mode. So you can never heal when you're in that mode, because your immune system's working overtime trying to eradicate an infection that it's a losing battle, because it doesn't have the ability to eradicate this infection all on its own, because these bugs have adapted and evolved and mutated to form biofilms that protect them, and they become resistant. And this is, due to a lot of things, overuse of antibiotics over the centuries and stuff like that. And just, you know, we're creating superbugs for all these other reasons. So you need, again, a multifaceted approach to fighting these infections. You know, it's addressing the biofilm, it's addressing the gut microbiome, eradicating the infection. But if you don't deal with the infection that's going on with your body, which you most likely won't even know you have, you're always going to be in that fight and flight mode. So your body can't heal.
Yeah.
And this is one thing we're told, you know, because we're told there's no cure to endometriosis, but the body can actually eradicate, like engulf endometrial tissue on its own. That's what the immune system is designed to do, to come along and basically gobble up that bad tissue, digest it, get rid of it. And it does that through enzymes and through the natural immune response. Of course, when you've got huge cysts and huge growth, utilizing surgery to help take out that tissue is definitely a really great option as well. But we do know that comes with the risk of scar tissue, you know, perforating bowels and bladders and all those things as well. So we want to help our body and its own innate healing abilities to do a really great job cleaning up as well. But it can't do that if it's preoccupied fighting this infection within the body.
Yeah.
You know, if you're stressed, the immune system becomes suppressed.
Yeah. So if you don't know you have an infection because it's like low-grade infection, not acute, how do you find that out? Or should you just assume if you have endometriosis, you probably have got dysbiosis and infections? Or what would you say is the way to find out if you've got that along with endometriosis?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the cheapest way is to assume that you've got it and treat accordingly, because you can't really do any harm by treating. But treating these resistant infections is it's not an overnight quick fix. It's a committing to a protocol for a few months, essentially. You can go and have comprehensive stool analysis tests, but these, and this is in Australian dollars, they cost you around $400. So they're very comprehensive. They'll let you know of everything, but it's just not an option for everyone. As you know, that's quite an expensive test. But classic signs, if you're someone that struggles with candida overgrowth and you're having, you know, vaginal discharge and stuff like that, if you've ever had an STD, if you've ever had food poisoning, salmonella, those sorts of things, or gastro, you'll most likely have it. If you're someone that gets the endo bloat belly, really, that's another, it's the progesterone relaxation causing the bloat, but it's also this underlying dysbiotic flora, because these bad bugs, they produce gas. And so that's, of course, creating that extension, that abdominal flare, which can then lead to pain, gas, flatulence, all those sorts of things as well. So if you experience any of those things, yeah, you've got an underlying flora imbalance and infection going on.
Okay. All right. So the endo most likely impacts our gut health, or is it the other way around? What comes first? Is it the endometriosis or the gut issues? As in, how can we say what comes first?
Look, I think it's a cycle of them feeding each other. It's really difficult to say what comes first, because of course we know with endometriosis there is a genetic predisposition as well because of that estrogen dominance. You know, there's theories around women who menstruate earlier as well. There's theories around the retrograde bleed. There's so many things that they suspect may be causing it, but they don't actually know. There's, you know, it's more than likely there's an autoimmune component going on with endometriosis. It's not been proven, but that's a theory which I believe makes sense, and that's that same process. Autoimmunity is caused by our immune system working overtime trying to fight an underlying infection, but it's like it's failing, it's not doing that until your own tissue gets caught in the crossfire. It's not that your immune system's turning on your body and attacking itself, it's attacking something else, but your body's getting caught in the fire, and that's really my belief around autoimmunity.
Okay. So let's discuss the 7 steps to hormone harmony. Can you tell
awesome.
us more about that?
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, so we've already touched on a few of them straight away, but the first one is really addressing your adrenals, because if you're in a stress state, and who hasn't got stress in their life, be it financial, be it the fact that you're in a lot of pain with your endometriosis, or you're struggling to conceive, or relationship stuff, work pressures, we've all got stress. And when we're stressed, we go into that fight and flight mode. So we're on the defense. Okay, when we're in fight and flight mode, it's like we're just trying to keep our body above water. So we're not thriving, we're just surviving. And when we're in that state, we're rapidly depleting our nutritional stores. We're producing more of those stress chemicals, which are inflammatory. And like I said, the immune system's not doing any work on healing the endo. It's just trying to keep you alive. So it's in like overreactive mode, and that makes us more fragile and susceptible to food intolerances and allergies too, because the immune system's like just trigger happy, so to speak. And when the immune system's trying to fight stuff. It's producing its own little chemicals to fight infections. But of course, again, our own tissue gets caught in the crossfire.
Yeah.
So that's the first stop. You've got to do an assessment on your adrenals and see what level you're at, because if you're in a really state of stress, you'll never be able to move through and get through the next step. So calming the adrenal glands and utilizing stuff like relaxation therapies, like meditation and yoga and those things, having your own downtime. It's utilizing adaptogenic herbs, so things like holy basil, romania, ashwagandha, rhodiola, Siberian ginseng, beautiful, restorative, calming herbs which replenish the adrenal glands and try to balance that excessive response of those adrenal stress hormones. Magnesium foot baths and baths are fantastic. Going and having massage. Self-care is a big one, and self-care is not selfish. We've all heard that one. It's a big, big thing. And it's like, quite often if you're caught in trying to care for everyone else or trying to, work and not really honoring and listening to our body, we'll go into those stress states as well. So stopping and just really reassessing every day and checking in. And I'm big one for talking to our bodies, and I'm not in a crazy way talking to yourself, but in a way, just feeling your body and say, what do you need today? Like, are you tired? Do we need to take a nap today? Do I actually really have the energy to go to the gym this afternoon, or am I actually allowed to skip it because I'm so exhausted? It's just checking in, having that self-awareness of going, what do I need right now? And not comparing ourselves to other people, because what someone else needs with endo is always going to be different to you and your own personal journey.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's stage one. So stage two is a colon cleanse. So the average person has 2 kilos of congested toxicity stored in their colon. And you've got to understand that the colon is a permeable membrane, which means that anything that's inside the colon is basically interchanging with that outside environment, our bloodstream. So I like to get you to imagine this. Imagine you're in a bath and you grab a sock and you fill it up with dirt, tie a knot in that sock, then throw that sock in the bath with you. Now, obviously what's going to happen is that dirt's going to seep out of the sock into the bath and pollute your bath water, making your bath water dirty. It's the same with our blood. Your colon's congested, and our colon becomes congested with a thing called mucoid plaque. Now, mucoid plaque is mucus that we naturally secrete every single time you ingest something that is inflammatory or irritative to your body. So that is alcohol, coffee, refined sugar, gluten, dairy, even meat will produce a little bit of mucus. And our body produces that to protect itself from those inflammatory, irritative foods. Okay. But of course, over time, that mucus hardens and it forms a plaque. And then that stops us absorbing our nutrients properly in our food. And it becomes that perfect breeding ground for that bad bacteria to live in and parasites to thrive in. They love that mucus and that stagnancy. So if we don't get in and clear out that congestion through the colon, that leads us into step 3, which is eradicating that dysbiotic flora. So you've got to get rid of their home, or else, they're going to keep in there and they're going to keep overriding those bad bacteria or parasites or even viruses and stuff like that. Okay. So, yeah.
Go to number 3, step 3. Quick one on the step 2. So the colon cleanse, if you've never done a colon cleanse, is it possible that the plaque will be permanent? There a way for it to definitely be washed out in terms of the plaque?
Yeah. It definitely will not be permanent, but it may take extra budging. So what I generally recommend women do is a 3-day juice fast, which can be quite overwhelming for someone who's never done something like that before. So I even say start off with 24 hours, don't stress yourself out more. And you may do 1 day a month, and then you might build your way up to 3 days. And the reason we do the juice fasting is because the living enzymes from the juice actually starts to dissolve and soften that hardened mucoid plasma. It kind of like loosens it from the edges of the bowel and the colon. And then we can use the colon cleanse powder, which is just simply like taking a broom internally and taking it through and scrubbing through, and it attaches to that mucoid plaque and then drags it out as it moves through the bowel. The biggest misconception that people have with colon cleansing is they think, oh no, I'm going to be on the toilet all day long, and that's not what it does. You don't have diarrhea. You're not supposed to have diarrhea with the colon cleanse. It's simply maybe 2 bowel motions a day that you're moving it, and it's like rubbery plaque start to fall away and come out. And it's, you want to give your space in that 3-day period to lay around as much as you can, have your juice, drink lots of water and lots of self-care, lots of rest. And, it's not necessarily the funnest process, but 3 days, it is doable, and it can make a significant difference to your health, because again, your body perceives that plaque as a stress. So when we're in stress, we're not healing. So take away the stresses, then the body can start to heal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now step 3.
Yeah. So step 3 is fighting the infections that we've been chatting about. So classic antimicrobial herbs, but we quite often have to do them in conjunction with some supporters. So things that will help to dissolve and break down that biofilm, which is what makes these infections resistant. It gives them their special, their shield, so to speak, their armor. So things like essential oils can be really good, and they need to be used safely internally. It's not something you take internally ongoing long term. Even things like N-acetylcysteine and beautiful enzymes can help to dissolve and break down that shield. Then you do that in conjunction with the antimicrobial herbs. So, you know, things like black walnut, cloves is another really great one. Oregano is a great one. There's lots of really great antimicrobial herbs that you can use. And you need to do that slowly, because you can't just load the body up. And I explain all of this in the book as well. You can follow the protocol, the Balanced Babes, which is every woman's guide to hormone harmony, and that outlines these 7 steps. So it gives you the specific instructions of what to do, the directions to take them, the dosages to take them, and the days to follow it for. So that's really, so it is a process that's easy to do yourself. It's just, you know, check in with the community, the Balanced Babes community, because everyone responds differently. You know, we get what's called a die-off effect when we're fighting these infections, and that can just, you can feel tired, you can feel sluggish, you might get more rumbling and grumbling or bloating. Some people may get a headache even, and that's normal, but of course you want to be able to support that process and make sure you're doing it on track. Step number 4, so step number 4 is loving the liver. So when our liver's congested, we lose that ability to maintain our hormone balance. We lose the ability to filter out our blood. You know, when we look at our cars, for example, we take them to the mechanics at least once a year and get them serviced. And our liver is like our internal filter. If we're not giving it a checkup and a cleanse at least once a year, it gets clogged and it loses its ability to filter toxins from our body. And we know that toxins stimulate inflammation. We know that toxins are involved in the growth of endometrial tissue. So cleansing that liver once a year is a really important factor. And unfortunately, because of the surgeries that women with endometriosis are exposed to, the drugs, the pain relief drugs that they're having to take on a regular basis, that loads up the liver, of course. It becomes, so it's this, you know, we need the drugs for pain management, but then of course it's loading up the liver, and then that cycle continues. So it's about balancing like the Western approach with these holistic therapies for the better outcomes. So step 5 is then about healing the gut. So once we've killed the infections, we want to heal the gut and that leaky gut syndrome that happens. And leaky gut is simply the cells of the gut seem to separate a little bit, so we get gaps going through. And that's when then undigested food proteins, gluten in dairy, in meats or whatever, they don't digest properly, and they sneak out through that gut junction and end up in our bloodstream. And then the immune system goes, oi, you're not supposed to be there. It mounts an immune response, which then can manifest in an endo flare of the belly, inflammation, headaches, sinus problems, skin rashes, you know, eczema, psoriasis, tiredness, fatigue, foggy head, brain fog, a whole heap of different ways depending on the individual. So once we've got rid of the infection, we can then heal the gut, and we can do that with beautiful anti-inflammatory things like turmerics and slippery elm powders and glutamine, and there's lots of great aloe vera, manuka honey. There's lots of beautiful vulnerable healing herbs that you can do. So that you need to do that in conjunction with taking out the inflammatory foods, because every time you have an inflammatory food, be it alcohol, gluten, dairy, it's like you're ripping off the scab again, and then the body has to reheal. So you do need that while you're doing that process, you know, for that duration of time, you know, give yourself 3 months, a really clean diet, low inflammatory diet, taking the herbs, and just, getting those processes in order. Now, step number 6 is about nailing nutrition, and that's about understanding the foods that work for you. So we've all seen the classic endometriosis diet, and it's not for everyone, unfortunately. It is very restrictive, and if you can adhere to it and you feel better for it, amazing, that is great. But there are going to be foods on that list that aren't actually a problem for you, and the only way you will know that is by taking the time to test them, doing the tedious process of creating diet diaries, checking in, having that self-awareness at the end of each day and going, well, how do I feel? Is my endo worse today? Is my bloating worse? Have I got a headache? Oh, what food have I eaten 3 days in a row? I can see. And I'll take that out for 3 days. Oh, I don't have that same headache. And that takes time, you know, and you need to commit that time to playing around with your diet, taking the notes, experimenting, and really nailing nutrition and what is right for you. I am personally a really big advocate for really low meat consumption. I see women do really well on plant-based diets because meat is inflammatory. It's difficult to digest. It is, because it's expensive to buy organic meat, where it has a higher exposure about those synthetic hormones, the treatments and stuff like that. But having said that, there are some women that can consume meat and still thrive and it be healing for them. So you don't know that until you try all elements for yourself. And then the final step of hormone healing is dealing with the emotional baggage, dealing with our negative mindset, our beliefs, because I do see something that's very, very common with women with endometriosis, because they have been suffering for so long and they're not giving answers, and they're being told, well, this is what you've been dealt and we can't do anything about it. There is no cure. You have to suffer it forever. So women, you can imagine how disheartening that is. And so women get stuck in this negative cycle of not actually believing in hope, not actually believing that they can, thrive with endo, not believing that they'll be able to have children. And so, but we know that the power of the mind is paramount. We've seen there's so much science now on the power of our mind to create our reality, and positivity having such a profound effect on endorphins that we produce, more serotonin and happy hormones and stuff like that. So we need to also be addressing our mindset and any of those emotional traumas and suppressed wounds and traumas and guilts and shames through our upbringing, anything that's lingering around there as well.
Yeah. I love those 7 steps. I think I'm going to be doing it, just starting again, because I've done quite a lot of the endo diet. So I try to restrict my diet from having gluten, dairy, sugar, alcohol, the works. Yeah. And but I'd like to do the 7 steps again. Just give myself like 3 months or whatever, and then go through everything all over again. So,
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was saying earlier. Endometriosis is like a 100-piece puzzle. If you're just doing diet alone, you're going to get a little bit of improvement, but it's not addressing all of the elements. And then, of course, women get disheartened because they go on this massive effort to change their diet, and they might feel a little better, but at the end of the day, they're still feeling crap. So then you get disheartened and you give up. And that's the tricky thing about treating endometriosis. It has to be an all or nothing approach, in that you've got to be addressing all of the things, and this is what I share with people. Essential oils are great for endo. Herbal medicine is great for endo. Colonic irrigation is great for endo. There's hundreds of things that are great for endo, but no one thing on its own will cure your endometriosis. But lots of little things consistently to address the inflammation, the hormonal imbalance, the stress, the emotions, all together as a collective will have an impact, but not anything on its own.
Yeah, agreed. Many women with endometriosis use supplements and multivitamins because we are told we are lacking in maybe magnesium or zinc, and we end up just sometimes, like for me, I try to use the different vitamins, but I thought, this is confusing. So I just got a multivitamin that had magnesium and zinc and selenium. So what are your thoughts about using supplements, and are there best practices or ones we
should... look, absolutely. And it's the same deal. There is a place for supplementation, absolutely, but it's one piece of a very complex puzzle. So relying on supplements alone, again, will not cure your endometriosis. I personally am not a fan of multivitamin supplements because you're getting a tiny amount of each one. So it's kind of like it's the tip of the iceberg. You're not going to get that therapeutic amount, so you're not getting a thing. At the same time, even supplementing with, a whole whack of magnesium or selenium and zinc and all these common things that women are low in, we want to go one step back. And we don't want to just correct the deficiency with a synthetic nutrient. We want to know, well, why are you low in that in the first place? Yeah. And that comes back to not getting it in your diet, your digestive system not functioning properly and not absorbing it properly because the dysbiotic flora, the leaky gut, the colon congestion. So that's the beauty of the 7-step hormone healing system. It's addressing all the reasons why you're nutritionally depleted. Because if you're only supplementing, you're going to be stuck supplementing for the rest of your life. It's like, think of it like a bucket with a hole in it. You can keep putting water in this leaky bucket, or you can actually fix the leak. And that's that's the difference.
Okay. Agreed.
Yeah.
So one of your steps on the 7 steps to hormonal harmony is the colon cleanse. So can this be seen like as a food detox? And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Is the food detox part of the 7 steps in terms of the colon cleanse, or is it something that you can do separately?
Well, I mean, I don't refer to it as food detoxification, but food is addressed a lot in the book as well, especially in the chapter around nailing nutrition. And like I said, it's that self-inquiry, that investigation of what foods work for you. I outlined the classic steps that you should be following, broad guidelines of, and I do agree, you know, gluten and dairy free, you've got to cut those classic inflammatories out of there. But then the more specific, certain vegetables and fruits and stuff, like I said, that's really an individual process. And I believe that when we heal the gut, when we cleanse the colon, when we get rid of that infection, the dysbiotic flora, you won't react to as many foods, because you won't have this, for lack of a better word, this shitstorm going on within your body and this immune system being up. And so we start reacting to whole foods when our poor system's so confused and out of whack. Heal all those things and you find you won't react to whole foods anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk balanced babes. What is your mission exactly? And I know you've got some products. So can you, the Balance Me, and I don't remember the names of the others, but I'd like to know a lot more about them and what you.
Absolutely. So Balanced Babes is my business, and my mission is to empower and educate women to wellness, because it's not just about me telling you what you need to do to heal. It's about you actually embodying that process yourself and taking it on as your own identity and making it your own, because otherwise we're giving our power away and expecting someone else to heal us, be it a doctor, be it a naturopath or a nutritionist or anyone. It is your journey. And this is where we step back and understand, well, this disease, as awful and ghastly as it is, it's there now, and we can either ignore it and try and suppress it, or we can listen to it and understand what our body is trying to communicate with us. Why did I get this in the first place? Because unfortunately it wasn't just, I mean, it was an element of bad luck, but it's also a result of genetics, a result of the way you've lived your life, a result of stresses and traumas you've had, a result of your diet, you know, a result of, or from an emotional point of view, not listening to yourself, not honoring ourselves, you know, being stuck in unhappy relationships, being stuck in bullying situations at work where we're not stepping up and taking control of our own choices and empowering ourselves. So it is such an emotional, spiritual and physical journey, healing endometriosis. So my mission really is to bridge that gap between the mainstream medical model and holistic natural therapies, because like I said, together we can do better. And we have completely different skill sets, completely different approaches. We're not competing in any way. We just want the same outcome. So I want women to understand that holistic health is powerful, and you can thrive with endometriosis when you're living by these principles. And it's not to say that the medical approach is wrong. They're completely different, and we need them both. And that's really the mission of Balanced Babe. So I put together a few different programs. I'm really passionate about endometriosis because I'm working with women. I'm seeing fantastic results. And I can't settle for women being told there is no cure. We don't have a cure at the moment from a medical point of view. We haven't got a drug that can cure it or a surgery that can cut it out and stop it from coming back. But I will not settle for that women are stuck with that for the rest of their lives. I know that we can get you living life optimally as if it's not even there, or eventually, you know, eradicating it completely. I do believe we can do that. So I just think I have to speak out, and I have to let women know about these practices, or else too many women are suffering and their quality of life is not good. And, you know, yeah, the hysterectomy is an answer, but I think, you know, you just even said in with your process, you've got endometriosis around your diaphragm. So are we going to just keep cutting out body parts until, you know, there's nothing left of us? It's not ultimately the whole answer. And we know that when we have a hysterectomy very, very young, it increases the risk of things like breast cancer, and increases the risk of really debilitating menopausal symptoms. And then you've got poor quality of life that's just as bad. So, you know, yes, it's an option. And if that's your only option, of course it is. But I want women to know that it's not the only option. And I see women overcome their endometriosis by, you know, adapting these 7 steps of the hormone healing process.
Okay, that's fantastic. How about your products? So they Balance Me, and just tell me about them.
Yeah, so I have a supplement range of things that I've formulated. Some of them are nutritional supplements, but majority of them are based around what I call functional food formulas. So they're not just, like I said, trying to put a synthetic nutrient to mask a deficiency. They're all things that are used in the 7-step hormone healing system. So the product that you use for the colon cleanse and healing the liver and healing the gut and all those things. So they're all beautiful things that you can have a read about on the website. I've got programs, the Balance Me program, which is a like a 12 to 14 week program that is self-directed learning. So you get the online platform where you can learn all about these things we're chatting about and educate yourself, empower yourself, and, you know, act on the principles. And that's basically taking you through the 7-step hormone healing system. Obviously, I do a lot of one-on-one coaching, mentoring with women with endometriosis as well, because, as you know, it's such a debilitating thing. You know, the women that I work with, I speak to them every day, and sometimes it's just a check in, hi, how you feeling today? Because sometimes they just need that virtual hug or that reassurance that what they're doing, they're on the right track. And even though they're not feeling better yet, it's all falling into place. And I remind them of their gains they're having each day, and I help them make the decisions around the surgeries and stuff like that. So we can see how, I guess, soul destroying endometriosis can be for some women. So I really like that a bit. I have that. It's an honor to be able to hold someone's hand through their process and help them heal.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we can get that information from balancedbabes.net, right?
Yep, balancedbabes.net or balancedbabes.com.au.
Okay. And do you have a Facebook group? Or
I do have a Facebook group. Yep. Okay. So that's just, if you go to www.facebook.com/balancedbabes4life, and it's the number 4.
So I'll put that in the show notes as well.
Yeah,
Thank
beautiful.
you so much, Stacey. So what is your final advice for anyone who's trying to create health goals, and how can they achieve them? How can they stay grounded?
Amazing. So just to never give up hope. You know, some days are going to be harder than others, absolutely. And some days you're going to go, you know what, I'm just going to sit on the couch and watch Netflix today and eat chips. And that's okay. We're allowed to have those days because we are human. But, you know, pick yourself up the next day, dust yourself off and read something new. Follow someone else, look for more inspiration, and listen to the body. And that's like the whole thing is, you know, our hormones aren't punishing us. Our hormones are just going, oi, look at me, notice me. I want to show you that something you're doing in your life's hurting me, and I want you to listen. I want you to understand me more, and I want you to change your diet or change your thoughts or change your relationship or change the beauty care products you're putting in your skin that are actually toxic and drowning my cells. There's so many elements to it. And if we learn to listen to the body rather than condemn it, that's when we start to get a lot more awareness, and we're shown, you know, we see, we're connected with people that can help us, or people on our journey who we can talk with, and it's all there for us. We've got to be willing to open our eyes and see it.
Okay. Thank you so much. This was very insightful, Stacey. Appreciate it. Tell us a bit about the Balanced Babe book and where we can get it online as well.
So it's available on Amazon as a Kindle version, or you can get the paperback. It's also available on my website. Price is similar, but you may find a difference in shipping depending on where you are in the world. But yeah, it is available on my website. And like I said, it's really about educating women to wellness and helping them to understand their body and understand their hormones in the first half. And it talks about, you know, the dangers of estrogen dominance and all these things, and not listening to our body and simply trying to do that quick fix band-aid approach. And in the second half of the book, it talks you through step by step the 7-step hormone healing system to try.
Thank you. I've enjoyed having you on the show, and I look forward to a lot of people hearing about you as well and learning from you, and probably even being your clients. Who knows?
Fantastic. Well, yep, just reach out, and I do offer free 30-minute phone calls. So wherever you are in the world, let's have a chat for 30 minutes. I can answer your questions, and you can find out more about the things I do and whether you feel that's going to work for you and your lifestyle and all those sorts of things. So, you know, there's no excuse. You know, if you want to just ask questions, you know, I'm here to chat and to provide that support for you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Stacey.
No worries at all.
I loved chatting with Stacey today. We all know hormonal imbalance is associated with endometriosis, but few of us understand what this means or how it impacts us. I especially loved hearing about the 7 steps to hormonal balance, which includes dealing with your adrenals by working on your stress levels, colon cleansing to get rid of mucoid plaque, clearing low-grade infections by using essential oils and antimicrobials, working on your liver, healing the gut, nailing nutrition, and finally dealing with emotional baggage. To learn more about Stacey, visit her website, www.balancedbabes.net. She also has products that can help you on your journey to healing yourself. Find the link to order Stacey's book in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would love to know. Send me comments or even a DM through my Instagram or Facebook page. Share with your friends and subscribe to the podcast. If you also have any questions to ask or topics you would like me to discuss, feel free to shoot me an email on info@notdefinedbyendo.com. I love to hear from you all. All of this information can be found in the show notes. So until next time, my name is Taniela, and remember, you are not defined by endo.